It was a dark and stormy night when I pulled up in front of the Mercy House. Standing tall against the chaotic sky, it was a paragon of Gothic architecture, its turrets and gables hinting at a rich and haunting history. Rumors about the house's sordid past were town folklore: murder, suicide, untimely deaths, you name it. Some claimed it was cursed, that it devoured the souls of its inhabitants, that it was haunted. As a paranormal investigator, I had to find out. I stepped out of my car, my heart pounding like a ritual drum. As I approached the entrance, the old wooden door creaked open as if welcoming me into its lair. Thunder clapped overhead, echoing my apprehension. With every step inside, the air seemed to grow colder. The grandeur of the place was draped in a shroud of silence so profound, even my own breath felt like an intruder. The scent of age and abandonment filled the air, dust, mildew, and something metallic. I ventured deeper, flashlight leading the way. I found myself in a grand hall, its wallpaper peeling off in melancholic strips. Ancient portraits lined the walls, their sightless eyes watching me as I walked by. One in particular, a stern-looking woman in a dark dress, seemed to follow me around the room. Upstairs, a child's room lay untouched, a time capsule of forgotten laughter. I bent down to examine an old doll lying on the floor. As I picked it up, I felt a tug, as if an invisible hand wanted to play tug-of-war. The air thickened, turning icy. I released the doll, watching it land in the exact spot I'd found it. Downstairs in the kitchen, I found a table set for two. As I approached, I saw the plates weren't just dusty, but had remnants of a meal, almost fossilized in time. I shuddered, imagining the phantom inhabitants eternally waiting for a dinner that would never be served. Then it happened. A child's laugh echoed from upstairs. My blood froze. It was eerie, yet innocent. I climbed the staircase, my flashlight beam trembling with my hand. The laughter became louder, almost gleeful. Then it ceased abruptly as I reached the landing. The doll from earlier was no longer on the floor. It sat on the bed now, its glassy eyes staring right at me. I felt an unseen force, an oppressive presence. The temperature dropped dramatically, my breath pluming out in frosty mists. I heard whispers in my ear, an unintelligible chant. Then the house roared to life. Doors began to slam shut. Lights flickered. The portrait's expressions twisted into grotesque grimaces. The temperature fluctuated wildly, from icy cold to unbearably hot. The stern woman in the painting seemed to cackle, her eyes gleaming in the flashlight's beam. I sprinted toward the entrance, my heart threatening to leap out of my chest. I felt hands clutching at my clothes, trying to pull me back. The whispers grew louder, morphing into anguished screams. Finally, I burst through the front door, tripping over the threshold and landing hard on the gravel path. I clambered to my feet and sprinted towards my car, casting one last look at the Mercy House. There, in the upstairs window, I saw a small, shadowy figure waving goodbye. As I sped away, I couldn't shake off the terror, the whispers, the laughter, the physical interactions. It was more than a haunting. The Mercy House was alive. I returned home, shaken to my core. Despite the late hour, sleep was a far-off luxury. I replayed the events at Mercy House in my mind, the eerie laughter, the forceful tug, the slamming doors, all culminating in a silent figure waving goodbye from an upstairs window. Days turned into weeks, and I was unable to shake off the ghostly encounter. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of the lights reminded me of the Mercy House. I began to see shadows out of the corners of my eyes, feeling watched in my own home. The sleepless nights took a toll on me, shadows under my eyes deepening, my usually lively demeanor turning sullen. Friends and family started to worry, their concerns echoing my own. But I couldn't bring myself to tell them about the Mercy House. They wouldn't understand. Then it started happening. One night I woke up to a child's laughter echoing through my house. It was eerily familiar, a chilling reminder of that fateful night. The temperature in my room dropped dramatically, my breath pluming out in frosty mists. I could feel an unseen presence in the room, an oppressive force similar to the one I'd encountered in the child's room at Mercy House. The laughter faded, only to be replaced by an unsettling silence. And then, the whispering began. It was the same unintelligible chant I'd heard in the Mercy House, echoing around my room. The lights flickered, and a sudden cold draft blew through the room. A sense of overwhelming dread washed over me as I turned towards the source of the draft, my window. There, in the moonlight, was the shadowy figure I'd seen waving from the window at Mercy House. The figure was closer now, its silhouette more defined. It was a little girl, her old-fashioned dress billowing around her, her face hidden by the darkness. She raised a hand and waved at me, the same chilling farewell she'd given me at Mercy House. I felt a scream catch in my throat as the realization hit me. The haunting wasn't confined to the Mercy House. The entity, the child, had followed me, making me a part of its spectral existence. It was a thought that terrified me more than anything I'd encountered before. From that night on, the paranormal activities became more frequent, more menacing. Objects moved on their own, doors slammed in the middle of the night, and the child's laughter became a chilling lullaby that serenaded my sleepless nights. I knew I had to find a way to end this haunting, to sever the spectral link between me and the Mercy House. But as I dived deeper into the house's history, uncovering its sordid past, I realized the horror was far from over. The little girl was just one piece of the puzzle, a hint of the soul-devouring curse that the Mercy House had bestowed upon me. And as I sit here now, writing this in the flickering light, I can hear her laughter echoing around me, see her shadowy form reflected in my computer screen. I know she's waiting, watching, ready for the next chapter of our terrifying journey, because at Mercy House, the horror doesn't end, it merely waits to be continued. My research into the Mercy House revealed a tale of horror and despair. The girl's name was Abigail, and she was just one of many innocent lives the house had claimed over the centuries. The house seemed to be a magnet for tragedy, its very walls steeped in a malevolent energy that corrupted all who lived within. As I delved deeper into the mysteries of the house, I started experiencing more intense paranormal activities. One night, my house shook as if in the throes of an earthquake. Mirrors shattered, books flew off the shelves, and I could hear Abigail's laughter ringing in my ears, not gleeful anymore, but cruel and mocking. Despite the terror, I was determined to break the curse. I reached out to a local psychic, hoping she could provide a solution. She agreed to perform a seance to contact Abigail's spirit. As the seance began, the room grew icy cold. The candles flickered as a ghostly wind swept through the room. Suddenly, the psychic convulsed violently, her eyes rolling back into her head. In a voice not her own, she spoke, "Leave or join us." The voice was childish, innocent, but laced with an undercurrent of malevolence. It was Abigail. Before I could respond, the psychic collapsed, unconscious. The seance had failed. Abigail was stronger than I had anticipated. That night, as I lay in bed, I pondered my next move. The haunting had escalated. Not only was I hearing Abigail's laughter and the unintelligible chants, but I was also seeing apparitions of the other victims of the house. The stern woman from the painting, a burly man with a noose around his neck, a sobbing woman in a blood-stained dress. They were all there, their spectral eyes pleading for release. As the first rays of dawn filtered through my window, I drifted off to an uneasy sleep. When I awoke, I found myself not in my room, but in the child's room at the Mercy House. It was just as I remembered, the doll on the bed, the old-fashioned wallpaper peeling off. But something was different. A sense of dread permeated the room, the air thick with anticipation. The doll's glassy eyes seemed to gleam in the semi-darkness. Then I noticed a new object on the bed, a book, its cover worn with age. It was a diary. I picked it up hesitantly, my heart pounding in my chest. As I flipped through the yellowed pages, a horrifying realization dawned upon me. The diary belonged to Abigail. Her innocent scribbles gradually turned into a tale of horror as she narrated the curse of the Mercy House and its effect on her. Then, I came upon the last entry. It was written not by Abigail, but by someone else. The handwriting was sloppy, rushed, as if written in a state of panic. It was a plea, a warning to anyone who dared venture into the house. Suddenly, I felt a hand on my shoulder. Turning around, I saw Abigail, not a shadowy figure anymore, but a ghostly apparition, her eyes gleaming with a sinister light. She opened her mouth, and a torrent of ghostly screams filled the room. The diary dropped from my hand, falling open to the last page. The warning on it bore an eerie resemblance to my own experiences. It was from the previous paranormal investigator who had dared to investigate the Mercy House, and like me, he was now one of its eternal victims. A chilling thought formed in my mind. Was this my fate? Was I destined to become the next spectral inhabitant of the Mercy House?